Hi everyone, welcome. My live cooking show, episode 8. My name is Alina. If you're new here, I am the creator of this channel, Adventures in Vegan Living, and every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, I'm doing this live presented cooking show live stream over here. Today, I'm also doing it at the same time on Facebook. So if you're watching me on Facebook, so hi. And if you're watching a replay, which will be available right after we wrap up over here, hi to you as well. So today, this week, I decided to do like a potato theme. So the two options that I offered earlier for my subscribers, email subscribers to choose were both potato based, and today's recipe won by like over 80% of all votes. It's a warm potato salad with spinach and chickpeas. And so I've had this recipe on my blog, veganrunnereats.com, for like years and years. And I have, since publishing it, I've kind of made a couple of recipes, like kind of piggybacking off of it that I've been making a lot. And I'm going to share them later with you as well. So what about, as for this recipe, what I like about it is that it's easy to make. All you need is one pan. I got my 12-inch pan over here. I'm going to go ahead and start preheating it because it might take a little while. So I'm just going to preheat it on medium. And so everything is done in one pan. Let me put a little bit. Yeah. So a single pan. It doesn't take a long time. Doesn't require a lot of effort. You can make this if you're like low oil or oil free. There's an low oil option. Actually, if you go on my site, which is linked up down below in the video description, you'll see the direct link to that recipe, warm potato salad with spinach and chickpeas. And over there's a low oil version, which is basically what you do is instead of cooking it in oil, you spray with cooking oil spray. And yeah, it works out just as well. I haven't made this completely oil-free, but I have a suspicion that it probably will work as long as your pan, the pan that you have, is really, really non-stick, to make sure, because you don't want to like create a huge mess there. So hi to people who are just joining. Yeah, say hi to me in the chat. I'm gonna be looking and to see if there are any questions or anything like that. You know what? Can you tell me, if you don't mind, what the weather is like right now where you are? Over here, I'm in Eastern Virginia, and we've had a few really nice days. I can sense that the summer is on the way, so it's pretty warm today. Tell me what your weather is like in the comments in the chat, and so we'll see how that goes. So without further ado, let's get to this. Let me show you what I'm going to use and the ingredients. For that, I'm going to add my other camera. Here we go. My things. Okay, so potatoes. I've got these red potatoes over here. You can use a couple, 2 or 3 like larger red potatoes, but this is what I had, so I'm gonna use this. In case of these young potatoes, you don't even have to peel this. I think we're not gonna peel them I think it'll look prettier if we leave them unpeeled. To make sure that, like, if you're concerned that there might be like any kind of pesticides on the skin or anything, like try to use organic potatoes. If you don't have organic, then you can use regular, but maybe peel them, or if you don't care, then just don't peel them at all. So this is our potatoes. Then we're going to have I've got this red onion that I already started earlier. I've got this red pepper. I've got some cremini mushrooms. Then, excuse me, I have a mixture of spinach and arugula. You can use all spinach or all arugula if you feel like it. I think either way works really well. in fact, the recipe on my site just says spinach, but I really like arugula. I used to grow it back when I lived in Washington. It grew so easily. I was amazed and really miss my little garden over there. Yeah, so we've got that. Then I also have some basil leaves that we'll add at the very, very last moment. I also have some seasoning. So we're going to use some rosemary. The recipe on the website says to use fresh rosemary, but I don't have any right now. So I'm using dry rosemary. And I also have this neat little trick for showing how to, because they are, like, I'll show you. It's kind of annoying that they are sold in these big, like, long needles, and nobody likes to eat food with needles in it, obviously. But I'll show you how I grind them so that, like, you don't have all those needles in your food anymore, but instead all you have is flavor once you cook them. So you got rosemary, you got some paprika, we've got some cumin, we got some garlic powder. This is optional. I think garlic powder makes everything better. And I've got a little bit of cayenne pepper here. That's also optional. I think adding just a little bit of spice just makes it kind of tastier, in my opinion. So yeah, I think we've covered everything. Let me check my pan. Yeah, it's getting hot, so I'm gonna lower this a little bit so it doesn't get super hot. All right, so I'm going to start with my potatoes. I'm going to just cut them into smaller pieces, but before that, I'll check if there are any kind of weird spots on them, like some kind of blemishes. So just cut those off like this. And after I did that, I'm just going to cut them into smaller pieces, like a bite-sized pieces or so. Make sure you can see it well. Okay. So yeah, they're like single bite-sized piece of them. Then, all right. Maybe I won't use all of these because honestly, this dish tastes best when you eat it fresh, just like anything with potatoes. And I only have myself right now at home to eat all of this, so I wouldn't want to like make a huge dish and then eat half of it and have like half left for like my husband and daughter when they come home later tonight. But yeah, by then obviously it won't be as tasty. Oh, hi Kathy, good morning. It's sunny in Cleveland, Ohio, going up to 70. Oh yeah, you know what? Similar over here. I think it was reaching 70 as it was outside earlier when I was dropping my daughter off at daycare. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of easier, of course, if you have like a bigger, like just a bigger potato instead of a bunch of small ones. But at the same time, the small potatoes look cute and I think they taste kind of fresher too this time of the year. You know, it's funny. So I was born and raised in Russia, as you may have guessed from my accent. And back there, like potatoes were like a huge deal. Like, you know how the Irish are just kind of a cliche, Irish people and potatoes. So Russian people are just as big of a cliche with potatoes. Like you can take everything away from Russian people, but they will never give you potatoes. I mean, I hope as the current situation in the world going, I hope Russian people don't get everything taken away from them because they have family living there, and it would be just a real bummer. But anyway, so I don't want to go into that diatribe. Yeah, so potatoes were a big deal, but at the same time, the bigger the potato was, the nicer it was considered. So one day, like my family wasn't really good at growing our own potatoes because for a while we were like, well off enough to go to the store and buy our potatoes. But then we moved, and my parents couldn't find their jobs for a while, so we didn't have a lot of money, and as a result, we had to, start growing our own food. So one year we tried to grow potatoes, and since we weren't great, as a result, the potatoes that we grew were all tiny, and we were just, not thrilled with it, because in Russia, everybody always peels their potatoes. I know about now, but at least back when I was growing up, like 20 years ago, it was considered kind of, people just didn't think that you could eat potatoes unpeeled. So we had a bunch of little potatoes, and to peel them, it just took forever and a day. And I was not happy, because as a kid, that was my task usually, to cook the peel the potatoes. All right, so we got all of them over here, little bite-sized pieces. We're going to jump over to where my pan is over here. Here, I'm gonna move my computer so you can see me shoot over here. Okay, so here's our pan. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil. And like I said, you can do without oil if you so wish. That's better. Is it? Yeah, okay. You just use a very good non-stick pan, or use cooking spray. I'm trying to not use a ton of oil, just so, I don't want the potatoes to be greasy. All right, so this is nice and hot. I'm going to add them to the pan. All right, hear them sizzle. Next, just move them around a little bit. And I'm going to add my little bit of salt. We'll add more later. But for now, this is pretty good. Next, an important part is that we take a lid and put it right on top and let them simmer for a little while. Yeah, what happens, it's not simmer, honestly. It's, so they're steaming, basically. Yes, so like if we kept the lid off, then the surface would start cooking, but the inside wouldn't get warm quick enough, so we could get like a potato that is like too brown and like looks really, cooked on the outside, but inside could still be uncooked. So which is kind of like not that much fun, I think. And not that it's just not fun, but also it's not tasty. Like you look at potato, it looks beautiful, you bite into it and it's raw inside, not fun. But if we put the lid on top, then the lid keeps all that moisture in that's evaporating from the potatoes, and it steams them as they cook. So the insides cook just as well as the outsides. So we're going to let them cook for a little while. I'm going to stir them a few times. But in the meantime, I'm going to chop the rest of my vegetables. I'm going to cut them into like fairly big dice. So like there's a big chunk of this onion, for example. And so always adjusting the camera. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We want the pieces to be quite big, like about like in size, so like comparable to what the potatoes are, so like bite-sized pieces. And I'm going to just split them up because they like to stick together. You don't have to do that. You can just, set them aside, and once the time comes to put them to the pan, you just mix them a little bit harder, but yeah. I like doing this because I'm kind of OCD about it, I guess. Okay. So do I have a little? Yes, I have a little bowl here. I'm just going to put them into this bowl. I'm going to do the same with the pepper. I've got, this pepper is fairly small as they get. So I think I'm going to use about a half of it, maybe a third. Like roughly cutting it in half, but one half is a little bigger than the other. And so I'm going to use the smaller side, the smaller half. So I'm going to get all these membranes from the inside, get them all out, get all the seeds out. Okay. I can already smell that. It just smells really summery, like fresh vegetables and potatoes cooking there. It's quite nice. Okay, so I've got them right here. Ooh, I just realized what I forgot. I forgot the chickpeas. Yeah, as I was getting everything ready here, I didn't get the chickpeas from my pantry, but it's okay. I'll get them later. Okay, now we got mushrooms. So I'm going to roughly do the same. Here we are. And, oops, they like to roll around, don't they? Okay, mushrooms, I'm going to cut into pieces that are a little bit smaller, just because it takes mushrooms a little longer to cook through properly than it does onions and peppers. With peppers and onions, when we add them to the pan, basically all we want to happen is that they kind of get caramelized around the edges, but still have that crunch inside. Whereas with mushrooms, you kind of want to try to have them cook through all the way. So they'll be a little bit smaller. This way they'll cook through quicker. Okay. And the last guy over here. There we go. Here we are. Okay, so I'm going to just add it all to the same pan. And I'm going to hop over there to stir my potatoes. Let's see. So I'm going to open the lid. It's going to be a little steamy, no problem. Let's see what it'll. Okay, I can feel that some of them are already sticking to the pan, which is fine. Okay. By the way, I should have mentioned why I'm using red potatoes in this recipe. It's because I think there are all other kinds of potatoes, and the one kind that I use most often is the russet potatoes, because I think they make really great fries. They make great like home fried, what are they called? The potatoes, like breakfast potatoes. I use them in soup and everything. But I find if we cook them this way on the pan, then they start breaking down a little too early. And as we stir them, they kind of start getting mushy, which is, it will still taste fine, but just won't look as pretty, I guess. But the red potatoes, they are a little bit harder inside, and they're more like waxier, not as waxy as Yukon Gold, those yellow potatoes, but these are a little better. So they stay together nicely. They will cook through, but at the same time, they will probably get annoyed by my hands in this part of the screen. Sorry. Yeah, so they'll cook through a little bit better, which is, just what we want. They'll cook through without falling apart. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Another thing that I want to say about this is that, like I mentioned earlier, that I've kind of created a couple other things, like piggybacking off of this recipe. In particular, I make breakfast potatoes that basically exactly the same, except for I either bake them in the oven or I make them in my air fryer, which we could have done that with this too. But I think what well, in the oven and in the air fryer, the way I do that is that I first cook the potatoes, and when they are about like 3/4 of the way done, I add peppers and onions and mushrooms, and then let them finish, and then season them, and then eat them. Whereas with this, it helps us that we have the lid, because when we add, like, we will go in all those stages, but when we add the greens, the spinach and arugula I have here, then the steam from in that big bowl will let everything wilt nicely. That's why I'm making them in the pan there. Okay. All right, so they're cooking right now. I'm gonna leave them without stirring for just a few minutes, because if I stir them often, then that nice browning, the crispiness doesn't develop as nicely. But I'm gonna go get a can of chickpeas from my pantry, and I'll be right back in just a second. Okay, I've got my can of chickpeas, and I'm going to use just half of the amount in here. So if you've seen my previous episodes, I don't remember where I mentioned it, but whenever I open a can of chickpeas, I always save the liquid, the aquafaba from inside of them, because I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll be baking something that needs aquafaba, so might as well save it, right? So I'm gonna go get a little dish to drain it into. Okay, you don't have to do this obviously, but I oftentimes go on a limb with my cooking, so sometimes it works. I'm shaking it so that all the aquafaba, the starch that sits on the bottom, so that it all, got up, and so that my aquafaba is like really starchy and not just, liquidy. Okay, so let's open the good old can opener. Let's drain that. Okay. Do I have any little bowls anywhere? Okay, I have this one little bowl that I'm going to use to rinse these real quick. Just 1 second. Again, I apologize for doing this, because I thought I set everything up, but I forgot the chickpeas. Okay, so I'm going to use about half of the amount in here in my bowl. I'm going to set my aquafaba aside. And the chickpeas, since I just got them out of the can and rinsed them, they are pretty damp, pretty wet on the outside, which is like, it's not a big deal. But if I'm splitting hairs, like when I add them to the pan, they'll add just more moisture to everything in there than I need. So I'm going to just pat them dry a little bit. Once again, you don't have to do this, but I'm a little particular, so to say, about this. So here we go. And I'm just going to fold this. I have these really nice towels that I got at Target. These ones right here. They are 100% cotton, and they are so absorbent. It is like, whoa, like I've never had anything like that. Like, to the extent that whenever my daughter accidentally like knocks over a glass of water, I can soak it all, get it all right with just one towel. And I think it's just a store brand. It says Threshold. Yeah, so I think it's just like a store brand in Target. So it isn't any kind of fancy like collaboration with some kind of designer that they have. And now you may see that by drying them, I started all these skins kind of peeling off, which I guess maybe I shouldn't have done that after all. All right. Okay, let's go check the potatoes. Okay. All right. Yeah. I can definitely see some of that crispening, browning happening right there. Yeah, so we want more of that. Yeah, but they still kind of feel like they're pretty hard inside, so I'm gonna just let them go for a little longer. You know what? I'm gonna up the heat a little bit. Maybe they'll help. Okay. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to use these in, probably next time we stir, I'm gonna dump the potatoes in. I think that'll be good timing. So we will also need our spices that I introduced you to earlier. Paprika and cumin and rosemary, garlic powder, and cayenne pepper. So when it comes to rosemary, I started talking about it earlier. So a long time ago, I don't know what was going on, but all rosemary, that dried rosemary at the store, I could find the kind that would be like, instead of these long needles, they'd be, all chopped up. So, which is great because that way they kind of broke down easier in cooking without being like a bunch of needles in your food. Nobody likes that. But at some point, I couldn't find rosemary, ground up like that anymore. And for a while, I stopped buying it. But then I thought, hey, I have this little mortar and pestle. Then why don't I just grind them myself, like whenever I need some? And honestly, it makes a huge difference. So that's what I'm going to do over here. So I got about probably like a teaspoon's worth of needles, which will yield a little bit less than a teaspoon of not chopped up, but ground, I guess you can call them. That's better to call ground, right? Rosemary. So the good thing about doing it every time, right before, like instead of like buying a whole thing, like a whole container, and then doing this with the whole thing and then storing it until you need it. If you do this every time before you need it, then you get all those aromatic rosemary oils that make everything smell just divine. They kind of get activated upon grinding. And just from this alone, I can already smell it. It's just lovely. So see, it also likes to get stuck on the mortar and pestle. That's because as you grind it, there's like the static electricity that happens in there. And so, yeah, so, well, I just have it like this. See, it smells divine. Rosemary is one of my favorite spices. Everything else is pretty much straightforward, I think. So I'm gonna wait a minute to check on my potatoes. I want to say that just some housekeeping. This will be the last live stream for the next 2 weeks, in case you haven't heard about it. I'll be out of town next Friday and the Friday after that. So, next Friday, actually, like we're flying over to see my in-laws in the plane. It is like at 3 p.m. But if I usually, like when I do this live stream, then it takes me all afternoon to do all kinds of things connected to it, like do the thumbnail for YouTube and do this and do that. And so it just so it takes a long time, but if I have to be at the airport at like 2 p.m., I won't have nearly enough time. So I decided to just skip it. And then the week after that, I still won't be back. And then, so on the 8th, April 8th, that's when we will have our next live stream. So on the 3rd, Friday after this one, right? Yeah, okay, so next Friday will be the first Friday, and then the second Friday, and then the third Friday will be the next one. Okay, so I hope you come and join me. Yeah, okay, let's go check on the potatoes. One of these days I'll get the camera right on first try. Okay, they're getting a little quiet, which kind of makes me wonder if they need to burn. Yeah, a little bit. I guess I just talk a little bit too much. That's what happens. But at the same time, they kind of feel like they're beginning to soften. You know what? I'm going to do like a little test. I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to cut it in half. It's getting there, but not quite there yet. So that's fine. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to add my chickpeas that I dried over here. Come on. So once again, this is about half of a full can of chickpeas that were washed and rinsed. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add the rosemary here right now. I'll tell you why I want to do it right now. Oh, I already smell it. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. It smells so good. All right, let them steam some more. So why I'm adding dried rosemary right now. So in the recipe, if you look at my website, the link you can find down in the video description. There's a direct link to this. Oh, Kathy, I'm sure. I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment about kitchen towels. Yeah. So if you find those, I bought those a few months ago. I don't know if they have them there still, but if they do, and if you're in the market to buy kitchen towels, I highly recommend. They're just amazing. They have them in red like this and also in blue. They're both very pretty. Yeah, so dried rosemary. In the recipe on my site, it says to use fresh rosemary, but I don't have any. Fresh rosemary, it doesn't take a long time to break down. So if I'm making this with fresh rosemary, I just add it along with the rest of the spices towards the end. But since we have dried rosemary, it needs a little bit of time. So I added it right now with the chickpeas, and we will add everything else in probably like a minute or so. I hope I remember something to talk to you about and to entertain you in the next minute. What can I bring up? Yeah, so since we're not having a live stream next week, I will have a regular recipe video actually next week, probably Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. So I've pre-made that, like shot that video without anybody watching. So it will be a shorter video, probably within 10 minutes or so. So I'm gonna post it in the middle of the week. And if you're on my email list, I'll send you a link to it. If you're not on my email list, then please come and join it. I'll put the link in the video description. The perks of that is that if you every Friday, whenever we have a live stream on Friday, then on Monday, people on my email list get a choice of 2 recipes that they can pick for like what they want me to cook on Friday. So I send out a poll for everybody to vote, and then on Friday, like this is what people out of the 2 recipes I submitted last Monday, this is what people decided wanted me to make. So that's what I'm making. So come join my email list. And also, if you don't want to go that way, but you still kind of like what I'm doing here, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. YouTube really likes that. This way, if you give YouTube a like, that means that YouTube sees it as that, okay, that video is, got value, not just like a bunch of fluff, like this kind of stuff. I mean, it does have it, but it can be perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check the potatoes again. And I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and add our vegetables. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I can smell the rosemary. It is just delightful. Okay. In go our vegetables that we pre-chopped earlier. Onions and peppers and mushrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and add our spices too. Everything that I got over here. So I have, I got cumin. Smells so good. Paprika. And then I've got some garlic powder. And I'm just going to add a little dash of cayenne pepper, but you don't have to. I just think it tastes kind of nice when there's some, like a little bit of spice coming through, a little bit of hotness. Oh boy. That's paprika hitting, cayenne pepper hitting the hot pan. It makes me cough. Makes me want to cough right away. But I don't know if it does that to everybody, or if maybe I have some kind of funny allergy or something towards it. Okay, so we're gonna let it cook for a little bit. I actually think that this right here, the pan is a little crowded, so maybe we could have made a little bit of less of everything, like fewer ingredients. What happens when the pan is crowded, like there's too many ingredients in there, like peppers and onions and all vegetables, then everything kind of starts steaming instead of caramelizing. The peppers and onions that I'm talking about. And I mean, it'll still taste good, but I really like it when there's some crunch left in the peppers and onions, but they have that nice caramelization around them. It's probably going to be fine. Okay, so there we go. Let's toss them a little more. Let's check the potato. Oh gosh. Okay, so that's the potato. It's a little bit brown on one side. Okay, yeah, so it did it cut pretty well. It was too hard inside. You know what? I think I forgot to put in salt on there. How about that? So let's do this. Salt makes a big difference for this dish. It goes from like being kind of bland to really, really flavorful. Okay, I'm gonna grab another potato. I'm gonna get like a bigger one, bigger piece. Because if the bigger piece is done, then cooked through, then the rest of it is cooked through too. Stay where you are. Okay, cut it. Okay. It did cut, and it's pretty decent inside. I'm gonna take a little taste test. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's definitely done. It's just not like falling apart. That's why I was kind of wondering, is it done or not? But it definitely is done. I do think that you need a little bit of salt. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add my greens. I got this mixture of arugula and spinach. And like I said earlier, you can use just one, either arugula or spinach, or you can skip them all together and just have that as a like a side dish for something. I think they make a really nice side dish. Okay, so I'm going to add this in. Oh, and I'm going to also turn turn off the heat completely because we don't need it anymore. Let's add a little bit of salt and toss it all together. And you'll see how it's gonna start wilting like, almost immediately. Another way to get this done that's a little more hands off is to put the greens on and then put the lid back on for like 30 seconds or minutes tops. That really helps the greens to wilt nicely. Okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna take this off the heat before it wilts too much. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. Here, I'm gonna move my camera back here and I'll show you. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can see the colors very well in this situation, but I think it just looks so bright and beautiful. So the last step is I got some basil over here, which is also like not a mandatory thing, but I think it's quite nice this way. And basil, I'm just going to chop with my kitchen shears, and you can't see that. So let's see, how can I? Yeah, so I have like made a little roll of basil leaves, and I'm going to just cut them, and it all falls in there. I'm not adding basil while it's all still, cooking and still hot. When it's still on the hot stove, because basil, it's so delicate and it's so easy to overcook it, and then it doesn't taste like anything. So we want it to. So the less heat is applied to it, the better it comes through, I think. All right, lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to make myself a little bowl, and we'll do a taste test. Okay, so I'm going to try to get like a little bit of everything. So we'll get some greens, some potatoes and chickpeas, onions and peppers. Yeah, okay, so that's what I got. Do I have a fork? that spice is really getting to me. There was, the cayenne pepper or paprika or something like that. So here I have. I'm gonna try to make a fork full with everything so that it, all of this stuff. Of course, it is gonna be super hot, but it's okay. Well, while I'm waiting for it to cool off, I want to say that this dish, so you can eat it as is. So I'm going to have this for lunch, or you can use it as a side dish for just about anything. yeah, you can like skip the chickpeas and then you'll just have potatoes and vegetables. Chickpeas added, some more like protein and fiber, so they make it more filling. But if you have something like on the side, like I don't know, like stewed beans or like vegan sausages, and you don't need chickpeas in there basically. Or you know what? Also, you can just take this and put it on a big bed of greens like lettuce or anything, and mix it up and eat it as salad. You can add dressing to it or not add dressing. Either way, it'll be quite tasty. All right, taste test. It's good. It's got that, like, I think I may have put a little too much cayenne pepper. That's not bad. It's not bad. It's not like super, super hot. Yeah, so what I like about this is that potatoes, they're going to be delicious if you cook them this way, even without anything. They're just going to be delicious by default. But you add all the vegetables, and it just makes it so much like more fresh, like the kind of dish that says, "Yay, spring is coming!" So yeah, I think it's quite good. If you try this dish, please let me know, either in the comments here later, or if you go to my website and get the written recipe, that the link is down in the recipe video description. So you can print out the recipe card if you want, if you like doing that. If you do that, please come back to my site and give it a star review. That Google likes that. YouTube likes these things under the video, and Google likes stars. But yeah, so now you know how to make this yummy potato salad. I'm calling it a potato salad because I didn't know what else to call it. But there's no mayo in it. And it's just so lovely and springtimey, and yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you so much. Just one last thing. I'm still doing the fundraiser for Ukraine Relief Fund until the end of this month. All the digital products that you buy from me, my meal plans, my ebooks, my printables, all kinds of good things for vegan lifestyle. All the proceeds I'm donating to Ukraine Relief Fund. You can see the link to my shop where you can find all of this on my website. It's down in the video description as well. Yeah, so I'll be very, very, very grateful if you do that, and I'll donate all of it to the Ukraine Relief Fund. That's run by care.org, which is an organization that's been around for like many, many, many years. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you make this. Please like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And I'm Alina. Thank you so much for being here, watching all the way to the end. Kathy, thank you, as always. Yeah, so I will see you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Yeah, on April 8th, our next live stream will happen. Okay, bye-bye. Have a good day and have a good weekend. And here's my button. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.